Hi, welcome back to another episode of Just Spiritually Speaking. I'm Tanisha. This is Angie and Dawn, and we are Just Spiritually Speaking. Today we have with us Scott Underwood. He is an intuitive psychic impressionist as well as a channeler and an author.
Now, people have stereotypes and misconceptions about all kinds of people. And some of them, the biggest, craziest ones, of course, are the people in the woo-woo community. It's like, oh my God, these were flower power kids. They struck out against everybody else. They didn't like the control, and they didn't like the administrations and whatever, and all those other stuff. And the reality, that's not necessarily the case. In your situation, what do you do what was your other job? What do you do in life?
In life, very grounded. I fix plumbing leaks. I'm a plumber by trade. I've been doing that for 30 years, and I think the channeling even comes into that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with a customer, and now that I've learned to recognize it, they'll give me an angle, not to take advantage of anybody, but tell them this information instead of this information, to where anymore I don't even think about it, but that guidance is there. And
So you wouldn't fit into everybody else's stereotype. Because like, wait a minute, this is a plumber. This is a guy who's grounded. He's logical. He works through analysis on all these things. I mean, it kind of
yeah, it's an anomaly in a sense. I don't think of myself as woo-woo, and I don't push this stuff on the customer that I'm doing plumbing repairs for. But once in a while, I just recently worked for a lady, and she calls herself a spiritual psychologist, and I'm totally enamored with her, and her whole work is heart chakra. And yet her husband is a medical doctor, but I met her through a job at their rental.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was supposed to see her. And she bridges the gap between Orthodox religion and this side. So we got one.
One of my tribe.
Yeah,
One of my
yeah,
tribe.
yeah.
I'm home.
And yet she'll sit there and talk about heart energy like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and opening that up, and that's part of her practice.
Mhm.
She works with a lot of men.
Were you in religion any part of your life?
Yes, I had a very and this came through in a reading. Very philosophical grandmother, my mother's mother. I was always been taking to Bible school with her, church, and at the time I loved it. Bible school in the summer. She was a heavy philosophical influence. My problem with all of that was, as I got older, I thought, well, I want to talk to Jesus.
Revelation, all of us.
You can't. You've got to be good, or they won't let you in heaven. And
What their idea of good was.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's where I struggled.
Sliding
I
scale.
struggled a lot with
Did that mean
stuff.
not stealing a piece of candy?
Well, I not so much there, but I thought, if there's really something to this, why can't I talk to God? And I was little, asking my mom. I said, Mom, she said, you have to get quiet and then you can talk to God. And I thought, the soonest I remember it happening, I was 6. And it's in the book. And I was running from our kitchen to the front door to go play outside we live in a farm. And I got halfway there, and because of Sunday school and the philosophy I was raised in, it could have been Allah had I been, raised in, but I don't want to singularize this. I knew it was Jesus, and I'm 6 years old, and he said something to the effect of, I'm with you, and blah. I said, okay, thanks, bye. Gotta go play. It was only Jesus talking to me, no big deal.
I asked you there, I got it. I know.
Yeah, I know you're there, big deal. And I've had some more powerful episodes of that as I got older and more aware. I'm like, whoa. And so that's always intrigued me. But at 6 years old, you're so trusting, and you're so, day in a life.
And do your other family members have any gifts that you know of, or do they even discuss?
No,
Isn't
my
that
brother's
something-
at the opposite end of the spectrum,
Mhm.
and has tried to convert me several times, thinking I was dealing with the devil.
Mhm.
And I got trapped in a garage one time trying to be converted, and I thought, I said thank you, but no,
It
I'm
was
not.
a religious intervention.
Yes.
Wow.
One
Thanks,
on
but
one.
no thanks.
But bless his heart. In his heart, he thought he was doing the right thing, and that's the way I looked at it. And it just didn't align with me, but that was our existence as brothers.
Okay.
The best thing I can remember as an example, he had some friends in high school, and he was over there on a given day and somehow ended up in a room with a rocking chair, alone with this rocking chair, and the rocking chair started to rock. And there was nobody in there. He was not in the chair. He was observing this. And he hightailed it out of there and came home, and I heard about it. I said, "Whoa, where? I want to see this. Take me back." That was my attitude. His was just get me the hell out of here, And that sort of illustrates, I've never been afraid of any of this stuff. Channelings or encounters or visitations, none. It just does not scare me. I've never had any negative reactions to it. I've never had any scary experiences. I've never had knives flying through the room. Just nothing but positive, well-meaning energy. And something would rattle my cage at times because that's what I needed, But I've never ever been afraid of it. One night I was alone in bed, and obviously I was somewhere else besides bed, but I think I woke up in the middle of this thing because they were working on me physically. And I could tell you, I felt somebody straddling my chest, pushing on but it scared me because I woke up and I said, "Get the hell out of here." And then I realized what was going on. I said, I'm sorry, come back.
Hold on. Do it again. Clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just little things like that. My latest thing that happened, and I don't get physical phenomena one, but I have a granite counter and I was wiping it with a paper towel, and neither one of them was absorbing the water well, and there was enough moisture on the counter it was going to dry. I wasn't worried about it. I said a can of tuna fish, so I'm doing something wrong, and this can just shot across this water. This counter is not crooked; it's level. But it scared me in the sense that something was going to fall. Your reaction is to try to reach back and grab it. And then I didn't think about it. And I thought, wait a minute. Tuna fish cans don't slide around on the counter. Yeah. So.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that reminded me of the scene in Poltergeist where they put the little girl on the thing
and
then it just pulled her across
Yes.
the road. I immediately
And they're fascinated by it. They're like saying about it.
They're like, look, watch, do it again.
Exactly.
Put the helmet on her, do it again.
Exactly. It's interesting. When I was in Houston, we moved into a house. We had to redo it and everything else, and so a major redo. We finally moved in, and we would sit in the TV room. We had 2 dogs at the time, and the 2 dogs, about 9 p.m. every night, they would get up at from the TV room, come in and look across the living room toward the door, and they would start growling, and it's like clockwork over and over again. And then every once in a while, we'd hear footsteps going up the steps to the bedroom, and then the door shutting. And we're like, wait a minute, the door's already shut. How is it opening and shutting? I don't know. And we just kind of like, whatever, it's part of the lore. And then eventually, one night I was sitting there watching TV, and I had been now the one thing is that in the kitchen in that house, I would be in the kitchen cooking, and all of a sudden I would get cold. And I'm thinking, well, okay, the air conditioning's not balanced. It's an old house. And then all of a sudden I smell roses. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not unbalanced air conditioning. This is somebody here eventually. And so I started talking to the entity. And I thought, I knew it was somebody in there. And then she would come and I would cook. And I would say it's a she because of the rose, the smell of the rose. And also because we had heard that the woman who had lived in the house had died in the bedroom. And then, she was never going to be removed from the house. She was determined she was going to go there. And this was 2 times ago, not just but 2 owners ago. The original owner who built the house. So anyway, so I'm in the TV room watching TV, and Ed had gone up to bed, and all of a sudden I hear Dawn, and I was like, I'm engrossed in the show, right? Dawn, and so I raise up out of the chair, because I hate my name is a verb. It's like Dawn come, it's like instead of the come part, it's just like Dawn. So I'm expected to like a puppy, and I'm like, so I was like, I come around the corner, what?
Who is it?
I know, no, I thought it was Ed because it was his voice. I'm like, what?
Oh.
And all of a sudden, she's standing right there. The lady had, after all this time, I've been wanting her to show herself, and the night that she does, I'm like, what? And I'm like,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
and I'm like,
again.
I know, she
Go,
disappeared,
go.
and I'm like, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my god. So I'm
She's like,
exhilarated.
I guess you really don't want to see
I
me.
know. I was exhilarated, and at the same time thinking, oh crap, I really screwed the pooch on this one.
Yeah.
So then I ran upstairs to tell Ed because I'm thinking, and also to find out what he wanted. He was asleep.
Oh.
I had to open the door, and he's just gone. He's out, and I'm like, Ed. And so it was her. But I was like, what a moment. It's like, so you visit with them and you get to know them. And all of a sudden, the one moment where And it's like,
Stop by and see me sometime. When they do, you slap them in the face.
I know. It's funny because we had a friend. We had a friend who was a preacher, and he had said for years, a few years, that when he came to visit, he was going to clean the house. He was going to bless the house because it was.
Oh,
And when he came, I never thought about her presence in the house and what that might do. After he blessed the house,
Really?
no more. And I was so depressed, and I'm like, oh man, I would never.
you
bless
need
the
to
house.
unclean the
I
house.
know. I know.
Bring all that energy back. I need her back.
I know. I'm like, Father
You
Ralph,
lost
what
your
have you
little
done?
friend.
I know. Like, Father Ralph, what have you did? My cooking is boring now because I don't have her to chat with me, And the dogs were bored. They didn't come to attention anymore at night. I mean, she was gone.
Wow.
Gone.
So I do have a question. I want to go back to Gabe.
Sure.
So, did you give Gabe the name, or did they tell you that's what they want to be called?
I've got it in the book. The actual sequence was, I said, "Who are you?" And they gave me this bizarre name. It was Goh, Gonan or Gonan or something. And I make a joke about it because I said it sounded like gonads.
Gonads.
And-
Just come on there already.
Where's he going with
Yeah,
this?
mine was already there too.
I said, "How do you pronounce this?" And they gave me a pronunciation. And I said, "That just doesn't resonate with my brain." And I
I
said,
can't tell people that.
and yeah, exactly. And
With a straight face.
so we did some more hashing. They said, "You can just call us, call us Gabe." And I said, "That works." I liked Gabe because it sounded older and it sounded biblical and it was really easy to say. We started calling. I was going to call him G, the initial. And the universe works. There was this guy in his business group. I gave him my rough draft. We were talking about it. He was anxious to read it, and he could only listen on Kindle. He had problems reading, dyslexia.
Oh.
So when the G came through on the Kindle, it was like G, like gee whiz, and he commented on that. And I went, oh, So the way the universe works,
Sent you a sign.
That's the way this whole thing went. It was
So
fabulous.
Gabe is the main collective, but I thought at the beginning you said that sometime are there other spirits that
don't-
also talk to you?
I don't see there is one will step forward,
Okay.
but I think there's like 9 of them.
Okay. A council.
And one will come ahead, and at times, it's funny because just the other night they did this again. They step back, and there's all these little stars out there of souls, and that I don't know whether they represent or it gives me chills thinking about it, but I don't know where we're going with that. I have no pressure. I'm supposed to fix all that, no pressure. But they are not. They know how to play with me and how not to play
That's
with me.
good.
Because if I get too attached too quick, if they'll be nice to me, so they keep me out here. Because I want to jump in and either hug, talk, or hang out or something. But they know they keep me right out here at this edge where we'll play with you just enough, and then you go back and that kind of a thing.
Have you explored what they see coming for, like, the world and or even just the country, that kind of stuff? Have you gone down that route, or have you even wanted to, because maybe you don't?
I'm afraid to ask, but I have personally been involved with a lot of situations that make me wonder that. But the tone that they use with me in the book, because I asked them questions like Holocaust and why this and the mass killings, and every time they will go back to the sequence being, hey, this is oversimplified. It was orchestrated, set up, and agreed upon to teach the parties in that scenario whatever it is they wanted to figure out on this round. One reference I used at the time, that there had been a train station mass killing in Europe, and I said, these people just got up to go to church, go to their train in the morning. And they said essentially all those people were involved in it for a reason. Now, if one person gets killed, that now affects his family. And the segments there, who knows what lessons were set up amongst those family members at the loss of this one, that it would make you crazy trying to figure out this, and it goes that way. You could say, okay, why 6 million people or 14 million, whatever the number was in World War II, and on and on and on. And if the further you get in this, you realize how in the channelings, you talk to other people channeling, people come with the craziest specific agendas. I'm reading a book, Hi Mama, It's Me, which would be an amazing book if you find it. It's out there. I just ran into it. Mother is dealing with son who accidentally overdosed on fentanyl at 48. She's now, the book is about her conversation with him and the stuff he's relaying. It's no big deal. He came in specifically, and this blows me away, specifically to identify and understand how helpless addiction is. That hit me right between the eyes. I thought, how finite of a process to lay out with this other woman, being his mother, for her to learn whatever she went through with the process of this thing. He didn't mean to kill himself that night. It was supposed to end differently, but hey, part of the game. That really made me think. If that's the case, I can't criticize anybody for any way they're being in any part of their life because they signed up for it to that level. I can't say dumbass or
Well, like this is the first time I've ever experienced a pandemic, and so it was very overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
And so the amount of people that was dying, and so they were saying those people have finished their assignment. Do not be upset with the amount of people that are dying. Their assignment has ended, and they are going. The pandemic is what ended their assignment, but their assignment is ended, and so it brought me a little peace about it. But it's still, it's an overwhelming. In the beginning, I was just like, oh my gosh, all these people are dying. They were just living their regular lives. And they just told me, more people are going to die. Don't worry about it. Their assignment is done. Like they've done whatever they needed to do is done. And
the other part of that is, especially this woman talking to her son, it's that much of a transition. In his case, it took him 3 days to realize what he had done. He spoke of other people she knew that had passed that they were biblically oriented and knew what happened. Boom, they were just shot up. If that's all there's nothing to worry about. If that's all there is waiting for us, what the hell? Okay, pandemic, fine, take me to see ya. But she put it in nice words, we get cloaked with all the stuff in physical life that disappear the second you get over there. And you do the life review, which he did, and his regrets were what he had done with his mother and to her and ignored her and the other things he felt bad about. And that book settled me a lot, but I'm with you on the pandemic thing. You got two choices, react to it or don't. And if you can, my goal is to not be afraid of anything. I don't want to be afraid of anything. I want to be just cool with it all and not react and not, because everything's, I was in a seminar one time and the MC said, everything I say is true unless it isn't. And that's what it boils down to. You can choose to react or not. Oh, that's nice. Nice story.
Did you ever hear the book Seth Speaks?
Yes, I read that.
I was going to say, because when you speak about channeling, and it's interesting.
That was a huge book for me. I read that a lot.
I was going to say, yeah, because to me, Seth Speaks tends to have some of the same realizations that you came along with, and some of the same, when you hear it, and Seth is now talking, and it's like he of course Seth is channeled, and so when I first started watching you channel and hearing you channel, I couldn't help but reflect back at Seth Speaks, and then I was like, oh, as finally it wasn't just words anymore on paper. I could now create the image in my head of this person having Seth come and speak.
Have you ever seen the YouTube videos of that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh!
Jane
Roberts doing the YouTube, like on YouTube.
No, I haven't.
You can put in Seth, and you can see her actually channeling.
She sort of got a weird glassy look in her. I don't know how she was a little more out there. I think I don't know how conscious she was. But her husband would. They documented everything.
Oh yeah.
This was when channeling was new. It wasn't as common.
And even taping and stuff was new. I mean, all that. Her to have that fortitude to do that. I mean, it's just and then the thought, because otherwise we would have been lost. It was amazing.
They were lost, but they were hell bent on making sure that they weren't faking this.
Right.
That everything they could do to convince you that they weren't messing with you.
Yeah.
But I remember that being a mind-bending book for me. I'd read that thing and it just twisted my head. Going, what? And I'd wade through books like that.
Yeah.
And it took me about 6 months to incorporate that stuff. I'd read a book and I'd go, okay, I've got to think about this.
And to be clear, again, it's Seth Speaks, and I forget the lady's name who wrote the book, but
Jane Roberts.
Jane Roberts, a
She
very good book.
wrote several. Three, of course, the one book she did write, the world was supposed to end. And something happened. It didn't.
Mhm.
It was supposed to shift on its axis. That had me scared to death. I was, oh my God, I'm going to freeze like the mammoths were, or whatever the hell was going on. But yeah, I remember I read a lot of her. I think she had 2 or 3.
So overall, do you think Gabe has made your life easier or worse? Like, is it sometimes it feels like it's the greatest thing, and sometimes it feels like, you know what, this is a burden I'd rather not have.
I don't know easier or harder. It gave me a big new path I wasn't expecting. You know, I've been doing plumbing for 30 years. I'd like to try something different. But if I do, but to have that connection, you know, because when you're a kid and they say, you know, believe in Santa Claus, believe in Jesus, believe in, well, this is something tangible I can feel come through. And the fun part is, hey, Jesus can come through now, you know. And so as a kid, I was always searching for that. And I think I made reference to this one night. The first guy wanted to talk to a Santa Claus, but I was misinformed on that one. I really wanted to talk to that guy. I was so, and the Easter Bunny, that was my first. Why can't I
That's
talk
a
to-
weird one to
Isn't
me.
it?
I don't get it.
But anyway, you can see the pattern I'm getting at. I finally found one I could get a hold of. I'd love to sit down and have lunch with Jesus. I think that would just be freaking amazing. Think of that. I'd love to ask him, think of the stuff we've been told versus what really happened. You know, that's what I wonder. Because every religion takes that and twists it to their own venue. Who knows what his real words were, you know?
Yep.
And who knows
We
how
talk
he
about that
really
often.
meant it. It gets twisted around. It's like politics. Everybody uses these words and fits them for their cause and their agenda.
Well, and you can see how they even rewrite history because, you know, I'm old enough now where I've lived through a number of presidents, and then all of a sudden, this president who, when you lived through it, sucked. And all of a sudden, it's like he's the best thing since sliced bread. You're like, what bread are you eating?
Exactly.
Because I lived it, and that bread wasn't so. That was stale. That was stale bread.
What's scary about that?
Moldy bread, even. I don't know.
Pick up the book.
Cheesy
1980.
bread.
Cheesy bread too. Exactly, depending on which one. So I mean, it's crazy how you can see how how religion has spun because just in my lifetime I've seen the spinning of different characters and and even some of the stars and Hollywood stars.
Well,
You're like, I remember when they were not even welcome, and all of a sudden now they're like the best thing. Oh, when he died, he was so great. I'm like, what? 10 years ago he was nothing, and he was like the crap, and everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, think
Rewriting
how
history.
much the Bible could have been messed with over 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and Constantine, remember Constantine? He picked the various parts of the Bible, and at that time it was
That blew my
misogynistic.
mind when I found
Yeah,
that out.
and
Like, what?
he-
It's not exactly the way he said it?
No, they picked which of the books they wanted in there. They kept the female books out, and they turned it because of the what they called it, the mouthy women in the church. They wanted to put them down. I mean, and so there was amazing how many books there were that could have been considered. And Constantine and his time.
Reincarnation supposedly got yanked out of it.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, because it didn't fit the whatever. And then even in 1946, when they rewrote the King James version and changed certain words, and all of a sudden now you have certain things that they beat us over the head with.
Yep.
But yet those things were not there until 1946. Because the U.S. wanted to fix this. So I mean, it's just crazy.
They
We've
fixed
seen
it to
it.
fit their narrative.
Absolutely. So we've seen it. We've experienced it.
So when I first realized that I was getting this information, there was 2 things that happened. The first thing was, why? Why are you telling me this? And they took me all the way back to the day that I was sitting in church when I was having this consciousness of heart, like, do I stay? Do I go? And I remember my pastor saying, God told me to tell you. And I sat there and I prayed. I said, God, I want to be able to talk to you the way that he says that he talks to you. I don't want it to be filtered through a sermon, a song, a movie, another person. I want to ask you a question and you directly tell me. And they said,
I like that.
You were given this gift because you asked. You simply said, I want to, and I gave it to you. So then the very next thing I said was, is the Bible the way they said it was? And they were, and the answer that I got was, the idea of it was like, it was to be spoken to them like that, but as you said, it was twisted and it was made to fit their agenda. So the idea behind it, like God actually giving this word and breathing this word, the idea of it, yes. But what we got, no. And so I was like,
Got the edited
always
version.
knew that. I knew they weren't telling me the truth. So
Well, you know,
yeah.
you get this feeling about stuff. I remember sitting in church. This is in recent years. I'm in a church with a neighbor to support her. She's going to sing in her church. I had not been to this church. Anyway, in the course of the evening, I'm sitting in the audience, and the pastor stands up and he says, quote unquote, "You can make God mad and you can make God sad." And all the heads started nodding. And I'm going,
Wait, what?
what? Yeah, to me, that was nothing but control. Now, bless their hearts if that's what they need to believe, and that's word. I was choking on the words because I had never heard anybody take that stance with something that's supposed to be so loving and neutral and encouraging. It just rocked my world. Were they bad people? No. But I didn't want to go back to the church. It just didn't resonate with me.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. I'm sorry, but it's funny because you have a religion where they believe that Noah talked to a burning bush. Now, the burning bush can talk, and Noah can talk directly to God through the burning bush, and whatever. But yet we can't.
I wanted to talk to that bush too.
I know, but they don't communicate to us. It's like we can't hear something, but you believe
Only
that this
the
burning bush
select
talks.
people can
Exactly.
talk.
Right.
Exactly.
I know,
I
and that's
heard
what
this-
I just.
Jonah. That's
Yes,
mine.
there you go.
You believe that he sat in a well for 3 days, but you don't believe that what I
Right.
receive is directly from the Lord.
Yeah.
I remember
It's like
listening
selective.
to this sermon on YouTube. This pastor, he's a quote unquote well known pastor in certain circles. I had never heard of him before. And one of the things that came out of his mouth was, if you do not speak in tongues, you will not live a fulfilled life. And I thought, there is no way God told you that.
I would think, it's a new one to me.
Yeah, that like if it the Bible says, if we believe what they've written, the Bible says, ask and you shall receive, right? You asked for the ability to talk to God directly, right? He said, I gave it to you because you asked, right? The Bible also says that, you know, the same power that resides in God resides in you, right? So if that same power is within me, who's to say that the gifts and abilities that we have did not come from God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's-
as you were talking about all of the Bibles that were, all of the books of the Bible that were picked and chose over, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of what was left out is a lot of what we are all about today that we continue to get beat over the head about. You know what I mean? I saw this quote on Facebook about witches, right? So we're taught to fear witches, but we're not taught to fear the people who burn them. You know?
Ooh, I
you
like
spoke a word right there.
Take it how you will.
Ooh,
And the funny
yeah.
part, if you look at Wicca, if you actually look directly at Wicca, Wicca blesses the earth. I mean, she blesses what God supposedly created. So if he created the earth, and their whole thing is about earth and divine Mother Earth and taking care of her, and everything about that religion is protecting earth and giving back what it is earth has given us. And yet we find that terrible. Oh my God, how terrible that we want to take
But
care
see,
of the earth.
here's
You know,
the thing.
it's like I
people
don't get it.
take the good and the bad parts of history, right? Like we've talked about, you know, the things that Gabe shared with you about, you know, the disasters of the world, you know, the Holocaust and World War I and II, whatever the case may be, right? But you know, just like they take out slavery. They don't want to teach that. They don't want to teach about America's real history, right? So people take the bad parts of certain things and they flip it to what they want it to be.
Whitewash
So they whitewash it. Let's be honest. They whitewash a lot of things. So instead of doing the research to understand something, they fear it and choose not to educate themselves, right? You know, in this day and age, and this last year and a half, almost 2 years now, right? You know, it's been a lot of racial tension and things like that, right?
But that's been manufactured.
Yeah, it's definitely been.
There is a faction. It's been totally promoted. I don't see this racial stuff everywhere I go, everybody's being nice. People hold doors open. I don't get it. It's being manufactured somewhere for somebody's agenda to keep everybody,
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's been there since slavery, since before slavery. That's how they kept the slaves in line, right? They flipped the Bible to their narrative, and that's a pretty big topic in the African American community is the Bible and how it was used to keep the slaves in line, right? But what was the original point?
Oh, the how again the how it's amazing how there's certain things in the Bible we pick and choose.
But it's not just the
ultimately
Bible.
It's like you can't,
it's everything. It's things that people don't understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wicca, being a light worker, warlocks, if you will.
But you know what you're talking about here? A whole bunch of different stratas of frequency and understanding.
Yeah.
The frequencies that attract you and me aren't going to attract somebody else,
right?
And vice versa. And so when everybody gets upset, well, why don't they understand? Well, they can't. They aren't ready to.
They don't live at that frequency.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared of it, right? We always tell you guys, we always tell white people, educate yourself. Stop asking me questions about it, right? Mm-hmm. But the world as a whole not taking it upon themselves to understand something that they don't understand. They'd rather live in fear of it and pretend it doesn't exist.
And make rash statements.
Right, versus educating themselves and learning about it.
Not to jump off topic, but the vibrations you just mentioned, we were talking about vibrations and levels. Mm-hmm. Are the vibrations for channeling, is it high like it is necessary for mediumship and psychic work? Or do you see a difference in the level of vibration necessary?
That's a good question.
Because when you were just about that, I thought, man, you just clicked, and if my train doesn't go there, it's going to go off the track, and I'll forget what I asked. So I better jump in and ask the question.
Interesting. I hadn't focused on that because the Gabe stuff is so embedded in right brain for me. The mediumship, at least I'd go third eye. That's over here, a different zone. And I don't know. It's still got to be a frequency of tuning in, but I don't know. I don't know if Gabe's over here and the mediumship's over here.
Well, how do you feel once, like when Gabe comes and then he leaves?
I don't feel any different. It's just
for the mediumship. Really do you feel different? Do you feel?
They used to come up around me, and they still say we're here. I hear we're here, but I used to feel them come up around me, like leaning in to be part of the thing. And anymore, I just go here. I center, and I wait for the words, and then I'm here, and then I can feel that the change just in demeanor.
Well, does the mediumship wear on you at all, and the psychic stuff?
My frustration with mediumship is I'm not as good as I want names, streets, addresses, phone numbers.
Right.
I want to know what's in the upper right drawer.
1800, 1900.
Yeah.
Tyler Henry kind of deal, right?
And you got a $5 bill tucked behind the vase in the in the back, and I don't get.
I just want a lottery number.
Right.
Give me a few mil in the lottery, and I'm happy. But that doesn't come.
But
how did you train yourself to go from your third eye, depending on what modality you're working in? How did you train the different sides of your brain that the information comes from, or being able to switch to your third eye? I've always been a managed third eye.
It just always was there, and I just thought that's what people did. The more of the training and the refining was with the channeling in the book. That's what got refined. I thought, wait, you're the guys that have been getting me in trouble, and I did it so much over those 4 days. It was I found the sweet spot. I guess would be the.
So was writing the book then cathartic? Did it help you to kind of deal with something, or was it like like I'm fired up, I'm ready to write?
It helped me with the locking in on the process with them. It took me to some realizations that I hadn't connected with. My grandfather came in, he was my idol, and at the beginning, it was a basic intro to aligning and seeing what I could and couldn't do with the channeling is what I can tell you. But it's interesting because my mother's buzzing around. I'm not sure what to do with that because when she passed, she just disappeared.
Oh, I thought you meant right now.
No.
Does she have a message for us?
No, I'm supposed to do something with her, and I don't know what it is. But she was an alcoholic and had recovered, and she had her own issues, and I had issues
Mhm.
related to her having issues, and all this stuff was in the book, and there were some healing tones to it. But I think every book anybody writes has got healing to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That grandfather,
Sort of a
he's
technical manual.
he's the one who's well dressed and educated and stuff.
Who's this?
The grandfather, he was the well dressed and educated one.
Yeah, it was the day of suits, and he had been in World War One
Mhm.
in an engineering outfit, but he
Right.
was insurance engineer. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I remember the very first time I read with you, and tested the mediumship stuff, he came through, and I remember
I would see him as.
and you're like, oh yeah, and because he was coming through that day and we were talking, and that was my first ever experience of having someone come through, and I thought, well, maybe there is something to this mediumship stuff. Maybe I
Yeah.
can do this. Sorry.
They just recently, the mediumship frustrates me because they get over there, and this is what I've learned lately, and they're dealing with life review, so it's usually guilt. Okay, so husband treats his little wife not well, and so he feels bad about this over there. He's trying to get back to her, but because the conversation or connection is so limited about all you can say, I'm sorry, that doesn't really fill the bill. I did this and this and this, and that's what this son has been doing with his mother, saying, hey mom, but they have long conversations. I think that's healing, if you can connect to that depth rather than, now there are people who just miss people. I miss my grandfather just because
Yeah.
there's not that.
Have they ever given you something that you just couldn't quite understand, and so it frustrated you because you just couldn't get on the level of what they were trying to give you, and so over time it had to bring your understanding?
I can't give you a specific, but I would say yes.
Okay.
I remember there have been occasions being with Gabe, and I'm trying, what the hell are you talking about? I'm trying to find words to get out of my mouth to the concept without altering it. And I'm always fearful that I'm going to goof it up and give them words that, it's like the reading where you're not getting anything. I don't want to force something out
Right.
that's not accurate. And I'm waiting, and then I say it, and I go, okay, to myself. But yes, to answer your question. So when I'm doing Gabe thing, it's true like being a ventriloquist. I'm trying to think, moving my hand over here on one side, and trying to get the words from here to there without my lips moving,
So if somebody wanted to kind of feel their way through it and see, okay, maybe I'm a channeler, what would you suggest for them out there, the folks out there, for you guys? What would you suggest for them on how to maybe test it or get started or whatever? What's the first down that path? What should they do? What should they try? Is there any ideas that you think that would work?
Well, the process that first of all comes is you got to know when it's coming in your head and it's not you and it's something else. The next thing is to get it. I'd say write it down. Just have a session. Just write down whatever stupid thing comes in your head, and just get used to that flow of it. Now, the seminar I was in, I was handwriting. Most people were on laptops. If you type faster and better, that catch the words that way. I notice there's a difference if I'm writing versus trying to do keyboard. And it
Different energy.
Yeah, but I spent 2 years trying to read my own handwriting because I was writing so fast.
Is that a T or an F?
Exactly, that's what happened. But if you do that enough, maybe we should have a book writing seminar and just bring everybody in for 4 days, lock them in a room, and then you get it or you don't. But then the next thing was I had the mental and the paper thing down cold, and then to try to get it out of my voice, go from here. It's weird hearing your own voice talk to a crowd or an individual that's not the voice you're used to dealing with, if that sounds.
Yes.
And I remember that one of the first nights when Tina was setting us up, I looked at her and they wanted to talk to Miss Tina. And I'm going, okay, we can call her Miss Tina. Just following that flow and just trying to get my vocal cords and be okay with that process.
Yeah.
And so it didn't all happen at once. It was,
So in a way of starting to wrap this up, if you as you move along, I believe there's a second book in you. I think because we talked about it before. I see the second book, and I see humor in the second book, which I think is nice.
I'm looking for jokes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, go with the
We're
psychic
always
plumber.
here. We're always here.
Go with the psychic
Go with the
plumber.
psychic plumber. I think so.
plumber.
But remind the folks again of your book and where they can buy it, and remind them of how can they reach you if they wanted to reach out and try to maybe get a channel reading with you.
My current book is Conferring with the Universe.
Talk to the camera.
That is my adventures with Gabe, and my unveiling of basic processes that I have put in the book if you're interested in what I went through and the happening. It's available on Amazon, and if you would like to get a hold of me, scottunderwood@gmail.com, and I have a plumbing company called Aspen Plumbing in Gilbert, Arizona, so you can tie those two dots together if you like.
So if you need plumbing and you're in Arizona,
Yeah.
this is the guy too.
There you go. And I will give you your pipes of psychic reading.
And you may even get a reading. Like Gabe might be like, "Look, honey,
Right.
On that day, you may get more than you wanted.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
Oh, I'm,
your phone's gonna be ringing
I'm,
off."
I'm
Yeah.
open for anything.
Yeah. And also, don't forget, you can reach him through our channel as well, our Facebook page, all the rest. It's just spiritually speaking. So if you can't at gmail.com is the email address, but also on the different social medias through comments. So if you can't reach him through those channels, or if you forget what they are, always remember us, because we are the conduit that can make that connection work as well.
We'll put the information down in the description box for his plumbing and how to get a hold of Scott.
Mm-hmm.
God, this
Has been great.
amazing. I was just gonna say, I love this. Like, I learned so much about you.
I feel like everybody still got a lot of questions.
Right, like
I do.
part
I know.
two.
I know, like I do. But I know you guys are probably getting a little long in the seat, so I figured we better bring it to an end, and that's why I called it. But yeah, I have a lot. There's so much more. Every time we talk, there's just something else comes up, and you're like, wow, what if?
But see, that's what's amazing. That flow kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Once the same thing in a reading. Once things get rolling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
stuff starts zinging, and you don't know what's coming in.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us. This is Just Spiritually Speaking. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Tanisha. And we will be back with more information. Check out our other content on the various social media pages. We have more interviews coming. Some very great stuff out there. I mean, it's we have some cool folks coming. So
Yeah.
keep watching. There's gonna be some
Comic
exciting
relief,
things.
right here.
Maybe a little ventriloquism too.
Exactly, and at the end of this, I'll try to take pictures of the book that we spoke about, Seth Speaks, and also Scott's book, and we'll pop it up on the screen so you guys can see what the book looks like and how, again, continuing how to get those. With that said, we're going to leave for now.
Oh, before you close us out, come check Don out at the Psychic Fair this Sunday. Where is it at?
Sheridan, Phoenix Sheridan Crescent, and it's over on Del Mar or something. I'll be doing some readings there.
Dunlap.
Dunlap.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you
like,
go. Del Mar.
Dunlap.
Del Mar. I'm in California, so I don't know. No, this is Arizona, by the way. Yeah, check me out, and also check out my private page, which is Sonora Mystic Tarot. Sonora Mystic Tarot. I do readings over there, but I also do monthlies and all those things, free stuff, so you can check it out too. And yeah, with that said, thank you, Tanisha.
You're welcome. We'll
Bye,
see you
y'all.
next time.
Bye.